Like the beam, because it's time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies and TV shows for 30-ish minutes. Today, we're talking The Last of Us 2, but who are we? We are myself, Kevin Bauer, a.k.a. the Critics' Choice, and my faithful companion, the People's Champ, Tim Cack.
If you feel it, chase it, baby.
You heard the man. We're talking Last of Us 2 today. And I know that the show has been divisive, to say the least, in this second season. So I wanted to get your opinion on it, Tim. What do you think? Do you think that this second season lived up to the high standard set by the game, or do you think they kind of fell short this time around?
I think the game is better. I think that's a pretty solid claim. I mean, I think when I played it the first time, it was the first time I had like an immersive video game where the goal was the story. Right. Mm-hmm. Usually you play a game and the goal is to catch them all or to kill them all or to rule them all or whatever it is. And this was just an experience, and you were along with these characters and you followed them on their journey. And there was gameplay of like running away from these things and sneaking around, and you only had so many bullets, and it was really fun and engaging the whole time. But then there's also like weird, just pressing buttons so that they can hit chords on the guitar and just like weird storytelling things like that, where you'd kind of walk through memories and things. And like you walk through the museum there and like they did in this past season. Game's definitely better. I'm on the side that season 2 is good. I think season 2 is good. I think Ellie as a character is growing on me more. That actor, I think, is stepping up. And I think they're surrounding them with other good actors. So it all kind of works out. And it's, it's not the same. They're clearly making it into another season. And I don't know if that was the right move or not, but I mean, it's good. Generally my experience is good. I'm kind of surprised it's been getting so much hate. Kevin, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I still think the game was better so far. I mean, I guess season 2 is in the books. So for season 2, at least, I still think the game's better so far. I think the standard was set because I really think they crushed the first season. Like, in my opinion, first season of the show, better than first game. But then the second season of the show, not as good as the second game. And like, I really loved, I mean, obviously everybody loved the Bill and Frank episode. We haven't really gotten a Bill and Frank style add-on here. Some of the stuff that they've done with Isaac is really cool, but we haven't gotten that same degree of them putting new stuff in. And, I could have used more of that, frankly. I think it's weird that they chose to, it's got to be a budgetary thing. I think it's a little weird that they chose to make this like one shorter season, because it wasn't nearly as many episodes. They're going to do a second season for sure, and I'm pretty sure I saw a quote from Craig Mazin.
I think they were both 7 episodes.
The first one's longer, I believe.
No.
But I am pretty sure I saw a quote from Craig Mazin that said they're going to need potentially a third season or additional season just for Game 2. So like we may branch out into season 4 territory here, still just covering Game 2. I do think it's weird they haven't given us anything with Abby yet. It seems like the vibe is that they gave us an Ellie season. Now we're going to get an Abby season. And I think we need more Abby early. I think we need to be empathizing with her. I'll try to hold back too much prediction because I haven't seen them do it yet, but it feels like a strange choice that they wouldn't want to lay more groundwork now, don't you think?
Yeah. So season 1 had 9 episodes and this one had 7 episodes.
Yeah, man, that's like,
but I agree that is 2 hours
less almost.
And I agree with you. This felt very short. This felt tight. And I don't know. I'm trying not to remember what happened in the second game. Like, I remember I played it and I remember I enjoyed it and I remember bits and pieces, but I'm not remembering enough that watching season 2 is pretty fun. Mm-hmm. And I'm definitely getting surprised with some things. I agree. In the game, you play as Abby and then you go back to Ellie and you do see both sides of this story. And I mean, in the game, I was way more, I think, on the side of just Ellie, because that's the one you've been playing as. That's the protagonist, it seems like. But the show has done a very good job, I think, of blurring the lines.
Yeah.
And I think it's so good. And I think Joel specifically is so good in this show because he is a man of conviction, and his convictions and his ethics, I think, are very questionable.
But he's convicted to them, and they make sense for him based on his experiences.
And I would say he's a good dude. I would say he's a good man.
Interesting.
But he does things that if you're sitting on the wrong side of the fence, he's a terrorist.
Yeah.
Right. So it's tough. And I love this dilemma. Ultimately, the first season kind of hinges on, would you sacrifice the world for someone you love? And I think this is a very relevant topic today. I mean, we talk about it in like politics all the time. It's like universal health care. And it's like, well, or like college loan debt forgiveness or whatever. It's like, oh, I don't have any debt. And it's like, okay, cool. So then you're not thinking about anybody outside yourself, like you're not thinking about the world. But it is practically hard to think about the world when you don't interact with the world, right? If you're seeing the same group of people every day, that's your community, that's your family. And we see different levels of that with who's the guy that comes in, who's like their third in their polycule.
Oh boy. Yeah. Jesse.
Like he's kind of in a similar vein as Joel. It seems like a compromise where his idea isn't just one person. Like Joel's sense of justice is all based around like 4 people, and Jesse's is zoomed out a little bit into the community.
Yeah.
Where he is still prioritizing Ellie. But his real priority is the village. And making sure everyone's okay in the town.
That community speech, it's the best thing they did in this season. It was awesome.
It's great. They've done so many different things with, I think it's really like a conflict of communities. Everyone is fighting for their community. I understand each community's perspective. And I think you can kind of justify everyone's actions in this. Yeah. Abby's actions make a ton of sense. Her father was diligently working on a cure that would save mankind. They found this girl who could save everyone, and she was going to die, but she was going to make that sacrifice for the greater good. And then somebody comes and kills all of them and dooms the entire human race. It's wild. It's wild. But also, could you ask someone to like kill their child or let their child die? Hey, my kid has some illness or some disease. If you let them die from it, no one else will ever get this disease. Like, screw you. I want my kid. I don't care about your kid. I want my kid. I feel like that's incredibly relatable. Is it right or wrong? Is it whatever? I think that's the fun part, is that we can argue both sides of it, but I think it's very relatable. I think all of the point of views in this are incredibly relatable, and I think it's a good watch, man. I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you have anyone who's like the most relatable to you?
Oh boy. Let's see. I mean,
or you grimaced also when I said Joel. I think Joel's a good guy. Do you disagree with that? Do you think would you say he's not a good guy? Would you say,
I just don't think it's that simple. Much of this show and the game and the franchise in general hinges on the idea of that gray area and the fact that, maybe we can't reduce it down to terms of if someone's absolutely good or absolutely bad, but the fact that people are different moment to moment. And one of the big things I always like to talk about is like, I never like calling someone an asshole. If someone's being an asshole, they are being an asshole in that moment, but it doesn't mean that they are inherently an asshole. There are some people who I do think you can unequivocally, based on a pattern of behavior and an unwillingness to change, declare as bad people. There are absolutely some bad people in the world, but I don't know that the majority of people are inherently all good or all bad. We all exist somewhere on that spectrum, and where we are on that spectrum changes day to day. So to call Joel an inherently good person, that's, I think, why I grimaced, because his conviction and his dedication to his community is admirable, at the same time that he holds these other traits that are not admirable, but they are understandable. And I think that's the key. I noticed this watching a horror movie this past weekend. This is such a tried and true trope for horror, is that a lot of times victims in horror movies are launched into monstrous situations that were caused by someone whose motivation was generally understandable. A lot of times it's grief. There's been a lot of discourse lately about how much horror just comes down to trauma and grief. And it's an easy shorthand for explaining why somebody would do something completely insane. You know, why would somebody make a deal with the devil? Because the grief of losing their child is that intense. Like, that's the kind of thing where it's like it just taps into that primal nature. So Joel kind of did a deal with the devil in a way, except instead of, I mean, you know, sacrificing a goat, he sacrificed a doctor and a couple soldiers in a hotel. Yeah, that's exactly what I love about it, dude. That the deep empathy that this franchise is able to tap into, and the time that they take in the second story to really slowly walk you there and show you the cycle of violence playing out based on very understandable emotions that are being felt by people who just continue choosing a selfish, shallow act over the incredibly difficult human act of growing is brutal to watch. It's so real, and it feels cathartic because it feels like finally something that doesn't have kid gloves on. There's not a happy little resolution here. I don't want to spoil too much for the game because we're just talking about season 2 of the show, but like, if you've seen season 2 of the show, you know this is grim shit.
Yeah. Season 1, I mean, it's grim. Like there isn't really a happy ending.
No.
The ending of season 1 is he killed a lot of people and lied to the person that he's closest with. He's been holding a lie from them and essentially took away their right to choose how they live their life and how they die.
Yeah.
It's selfish. I mean, it is selfish. I guess my instinct is that you're right. It is all shades of gray because if you look at him from another person's perspective, you know, it's bad. And I think that is something we could do more of nowadays is like, so, you know, like, oh, this person's doing this. And then it's like, so what is their motivation?
Yeah.
I ask myself that all the time. What is their motivation? Especially with like, I keep thinking about politics, you know, like when somebody passes a bill, when like, you know, Elon Musk is like, let's get rid of regulators and things that regulate big businesses. Like, what's his motivation there? Is it to help me? Or is it to maybe, you know, get rid of the restrictions on his big ass companies and make a lot of money? I think having someone's motivation, I think really clarifies things for me. Right. And I would say something like, you know, Musk, I think, is kind of a shitty dude because his priority is me. And I think if we're boiling Joel down to his priority and his motivation, it is ultimately, well, I'm going to contradict myself here because I'm like, I was going to say it's ultimately someone else. His priority is this other person, but maybe he's being selfish in that as well.
Definitely.
So,
yeah.
Maybe it's definitely a lot more complicated than black and white, whatever.
It's interesting to think about, man. I think about something that Blythe said one time about astrology. God, this is back before astrology got huge again. So maybe her stance has changed. Blythe, if you're listening to this, feel free to come on the pod and defend yourself now. But she had mentioned one time when people were just starting to get back into astrology again, how, you know, she saw nothing wrong with zodiacs and astrology because even though at the time she was not a believer in it, her take was this is promoting introspection, which is always a good thing. Like, I cannot think of a single time where somebody thinking about themselves and their actions is bad.
Right. I think it's kind of, you know, like everything's okay until you start affecting other people with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The worst someone who's into horoscopes is going to be is like a bummer to be around. Right. They're not going to like read their horoscope in the newspaper and then go like shoot up a grocery store. You know, they're going to be, unless the horoscope's terrible. And that grocery store has been, I don't know, there's somehow a factory that produces horoscopes or something. I don't know. Maybe who wants to tell them that it's good and evil? Maybe we should just cut that part out. I'm just saying.
I'm leaving it, dude. Big horoscope is coming for your ass.
I think the biggest problem with these things is like if your horoscope starts dictating, you know, what kind of laws you want to pass in your community and what kind of rules other people should follow.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes a problem. And I think until then, everything introspective is good. And so Joel agonizing over whether or not to save Ellie and weighing the cost benefit of saving the world versus this person he loves is good. I mean, it's a good thought to have. It's an interesting dilemma. It's good that he's exploring this and these sides of himself, but it's bad as soon as he takes action and starts killing people, right? Because everything he does, honest, it does seem like the best thing he could have done was, let her die. But I feel like they did not tell her she was going to die, did they?
No. And he tells her that.
He tells her that after.
Right.
But she goes under and thinks she's going to be alive.
Yeah.
And that part's fucked up, I think. And in that moment, it seems to me that really justifies Joel's outrage, which is like, oh, there's this deception here. They didn't tell him that this is what was going to happen. He found out that they were going to kill her. And I think that's subterfuge or however you say that word. I always see it in writing, and I thought I'd try it out here. And you know what? I'll try it out another time, and we'll see if we do any better.
Subterfuge.
And I think that confusion is enough to justify his actions and make them understandable, right? It'd be one thing if it was purely logical and black and white, and hey, this is the scenario. She can save the world, but she has to die. This has to happen. Take your time. Like sit with this decision. There really isn't a rush. There's no rush. The world's over. The world's dying. You're going to be able to make this medicine. Like this is a person's life. Let them live out the last week of their life if you want. Like there's a right and wrong way to go about it, and they went about it in the wrong way, maybe for the right thing.
For sure. But it really robs it too. So this is a big nerd complaint. We're a couple weeks late to the party here, but I do think it's worth mentioning that people are upset in these further interviews and like post-show things that are coming out where Neil Druckmann is confirming certain aspects of the story that had previously been left ambiguous. One of the things that he confirmed is that the cure would have worked. And it's like, man, don't confirm that. It was so much more interesting when Joel also didn't know whether or not it would have worked, because that adds a whole other wrinkle to it. It technically makes it more understandable that Joel would have done what he did. I think that was his intention in clarifying it, but I don't want that clarified. It reminds me of when the Broccoli family came out and responded to that fan theory that James Bond was a code name. And they came out, they're like, oh, by the way, no, that's false. Why would you ever let people have that? Why would you ever shoot that down? That's so fun.
Yeah, I don't believe in addendums to art.
Nice. This guy is out here mad at J.K. Rowling only for the wizards pooping their pants thing. Nothing else. No other problems with J.K. Rowling.
Listen, unless the product is you, like you are the product. If you make a thing and you put it out there, I think it belongs to other people now, in a sense. Like if it's a song and then that person's a piece of shit, like I hate it, but sometimes that song comes on and it means different things to different people, you know? And that's kind of where I am with a lot of the art and stuff. And sometimes you can't separate it. And if you can't, that's fair too. But I'm not for these artists writing a book and then answering questions afterwards. I don't want to know what happens to these characters. Don't tell us if this thing worked. Like you're done. If you want to add something, write another book. Yeah. Make more art. You can tell us this through art, but don't just phone it in. Don't do a podcast after and explain what happened in the thing. Like leave it. Let us interpret something. Yeah. I don't want to be handed everything. I don't want everything to be black and white. The gray is, we're just talking about how fun the gray is in this show and the moral dilemmas and how ambiguous everything is. And for you to come out afterwards and undercut it with clarification like that, it sucks, man. It sucks. We don't want it. I mean, that you're right. That is another thing that was complicating that death in the first season is this cure even going to work? Do you have the guarantee? And I feel like at the time you did not have the guarantee necessarily that she was going to do this. No, not at all. I wanted to get into this. Kind of led me to another moral dilemma that I thought was interesting. Catherine O'Hara, amazing. Yeah. I love Catherine O'Hara and everything she does. And in this, she's fantastic. I love her. The dilemma with her is her husband gets bitten by this plant zombie. Joey Pants, baby. Once he starts getting bit, it's over. He's going to turn into this zombie. And the rule is we don't bring people who've been bitten back to the city, the village. But he is asking Joel, the person that found him, Joel and Ellie, to take him back so he can see his wife one last time. Joel promises Ellie is going to walk them back, and he ends up killing Joey Pants out in the woods. And then when he brings the body to Catherine O'Hara, he lies and talks about his noble death and all of these things. And then Ellie blurts out the truth, and
Awesome
that really
scene.
breaks Catherine O'Hara. And that's another situation that is so morally gray and complicated. But I think Joel's right. And I think Laura pointed this out to me, is that Catherine O'Hara's character wants to like Joel, like wants to forgive Joel, hates Ellie. She's written Ellie off completely. Her advice to other people is that some people are just doomed. And it's crazy because Ellie's the one telling her the truth.
Yeah, she doesn't want it.
I feel like all the time in real life, we're like, the truth saves so much, we want to know the truth. I want to know the truth. I want to know what's real and what's not real, except sometimes you don't want to know what the truth is.
Yeah.
It's great. It's just a great situation.
Tim, there's a lot of stuff about public figures I wish I didn't know. It's just been, I feel like the entire past 10 years, there's just been more and more stuff coming out where it's like, do you remember everyone you've ever liked? They're all perverts.
I mean, I guess in that instance, it's good to know.
I mean,
if their perversions are affecting other people.
Let me clarify that.
Listen, the last thing we're going to do on the show is kink shame. No. The last thing we're going to do on the show is kink shame. But kink requires consent. So if someone's out there perving being weird, fuck them.
Yeah, so that's an important clarification that was very unclear in the way that I said it, that I'm very glad you brought up, Tim. I want them to face accountability for their actions.
Yes.
But what I don't want is for any of that shit to have happened in the first place.
Yes. Yes. But if a kid loves his grandfather and the grandfather dies, and the kid grows up thinking his grandfather was a good man, but his family just never told him his grandfather was a Nazi. Like, is that...
Wow.
Like, what's the moral obligation there for a kid to grow up in a loving environment and have like a relationship with someone that he loves and trusts, but also this man is evil and a monster? I don't know. It just seems like
you said. I think it comes down to the point in which that knowledge starts influencing his actions. If this kid changes his name to like Old Man Nazi the Third, and wears the same haircut and starts going around saying like, oh boy, my grandpa was a hero, he was my hero, I defend all of his actions, and the parents see this happening and they know that there's, number one, somebody being glorified that shouldn't be to that degree, and number two, if they know that this kid is going to find that out and like this information is out there publicly and it's going to like, basically it's irreparably doing harm to this kid. I mean, even worse if the kid actually believes the shit, then we're in real trouble. So yeah, it's I think it's when the actions happen.
That's a crazy hypothetical.
I bet it's happened though.
Oh, there's definitely people who have done bad things that have other relationships with people that are good, like, yeah, I could be a murderer in my spare time, but that doesn't mean that our time on the pod isn't special, Kevin.
Right.
And just know they all had it coming. All of them. Every single one.
It sounds like it's coming. More than two.
Yeah, all of them. I mean, and it's also the thing about that too is like there's going to be some where you're like, it's like, oh, that's a lot of people. But then once you read down the list of names, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. Like it's like a list of the list of murdered people, and you're just like, oh, that's all right. That one's, I'm not upset about that one.
There's probably a couple, I'm assuming here that there's probably a couple on there where it's like, well, glad they're gone, but probably could have waited. Like if you did Epstein. Exactly.
Did Epstein a little early? I'm just trying to think of the most like shruggable. Nah, this is a bad track to go down, but I am trying to think of like the most like
the
bland
least
individuals
YouTube promotable thing we've ever done.
Yeah, you're right. We got to get away from this. We got to get away from this.
I
So
want one
Catherine
name.
O'Hara.
I want one name that you thought of so far for a list.
I don't know. I was thinking like Bill Clinton,
Mhm.
where you're
Oh
like
my
Bill
God.
Clinton shot today, and you're like, okay.
I wouldn't say. Well, no, I wouldn't celebrate that.
I wouldn't. No. I'm not talking celebration. The last thing I'm talking about is celebration. I'm talking something that would evoke a Larry David-esque, like, huh?
Mm.
You know, like you're not
Jared
sad.
Fogle.
You're not excited. Jared Fogle.
Jared Fogle from Subway. I was browsing around on, I think it was HBO. It was either like HBO or Paramount. And one of the like tiles for like a poster for a movie you could watch was like Subway Predator, the Jared Fogle story. And I was just thinking, if you could teleport me from like the year 2005 to here and show me that poster, I would just be like, what happened?
What
Subway Jared?
Remember the Dell guy? He did something.
Did
and then he
he?
was just gone. Dude, you're getting a Dell? There's a reason we don't have Dells anymore.
No. Dude, you're getting a Dell guy's gone? Oh.
I'm pretty sure he's gone.
Damn. Yeah, they opened his Dell and looked at what was on the hard drive.
He didn't know about erasing history.
Oh my God. Oh man. God. Well, that just made me think of
Dell,
that.
I'm sure he was arrested. Oh, he was arrested and accused of buying a bag of marijuana. Okay, by comparison, it seems like a pretty mild thing.
Justice for Dell guy. You just dragged that man's name through the mud.
Dude, no, 100%. I need to reverse my statement on dude, you're buying a Dell. Also, a guy who's telling you about computers and teaching you about computers, and they're saying the word dude, you're getting a Dell. It's like that dude is high most of the time.
Absolutely.
And that's who I want working on my computer. I remember reading a thing years ago about the FBI and CIA and how the government has trouble recruiting hackers.
Yeah.
Because the best hackers don't want to have to take a drug test.
Yeah.
And so they're all like the best hackers in the world. They're just like living their best lives out there, getting high and just like doing crazy shit online. And the government just like can't stop them because, you know, they want to B test everybody.
Which the funniest thing about that to me is I am fascinated with the boundaries that people draw and why they draw them. I think another reason that I find this franchise so appealing, if that's true about them not being able to recruit hackers because of a drug test, which is something that we desperately need, it is infuriating that the same government was completely okay hiring Werner von Braun, the actual Nazi, to help in the space race. Like,
yeah,
if they're not pro, but if they're tolerant of Nazis but not weed, something is very wrong.
Thank you for bringing up Nazis again. I think it's good to point out that our government might be a little hypocritical. Our government might be a little hypocritical, just a little bit,
just a touch.
Abby,
Tim, how many of the Seraphites do you think are skinheads? Do I like Abby? I love Caitlin Dever a lot. I'm sad that the timeline didn't work out because I think she was created in a laboratory to play Kitty Pryde. I am furious that we will probably never see her play Kitty Pryde because she is the human embodiment of Kitty Pryde. So I've been a fan of hers since Booksmart. Big fan. There's so many people who like came out of the woodwork and were like, she should have been Ellie, and she like screen tested at some point. Bella's great. Bella's got the spirit of the character down pat.
I think Bella is good.
Caitlin has the spirit of Abby down pat. It rocks. She's not as ripped, but she's fully embodying the spirit of it. She's really good. Big fan. You?
Yeah, I do. That was my fact that I kept leaning over to annoy my girlfriend with, was every time Abby showed up on screen, I'd be like, you know, in the video game, Abby was actually a lot more jacked than this. It's like an annoying like red pill Reddit take. Is just like, well, actually, this is kind of dumb because she should be jacked out of her mind. You know, we should have some Jack Queens up in here. And you know what? I would like that too, but you know, it's acting.
It's acting. It's, I think both of us have done some time in CrossFit gyms. There's a lot of like really cool ripped women out there. We love that in the game. Lauren loved the representation of having a ripped woman in there. And then it was something that we talked about extensively on our Thor Love and Thunder podcast, where they really hyped up like how much work Natalie Portman was doing. And she built some muscle, but she wasn't like jacked. She didn't get fully like bodybuilder competition jacked for it. We talked about that a lot. And I want to say a day, maybe two after we posted that episode, I started getting served YouTube shorts about why it's actually like a toxic masculine trait to be judging actresses for not getting more jacked for roles. And I was like, oh, damn, shit. So I've just been like trying to think about that more.
I mean, it's all toxic. I think about that for guys too, where I'm just like, could have gotten more jacked, could have done another round of roids, could have gotten on the juice.
There's a reason Alan Richson is a household name for men. Yeah. Only men.
Yes. I mean, just the guy, just the jack dudes. I love a good jack dude, love a jacked lady. I don't think it affects Abby's performance at all. I was wondering... I was also thinking if it was someone like a foot taller and bigger, I wouldn't realistically buy them as necessarily like a physical nemesis to Ellie. I think a physical conflict between them, which I think is continuously being teased, and was probably coming at some point. They're going to duke it out in some way. It feels a lot closer.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. I think it's good for television. And I think this is another example of like good casting around Bella. Her love interest in this, who is it? Dina?
Oh, Dina, yeah.
Also great.
I forget the actor's
love
name.
Dina. Dina's so good.
She rules. She's so good. Another person who just embodies the spirit of the character so fucking well. She really stood out. She's really cool. She's apparently playing Hawkgirl in the Superman movie that's coming out this summer. And I feel like she's poised to just explode and be in a ton of stuff now.
She could take off for sure. She's so charming and like effortlessly fun. I like Bella Ramsey. I like her a lot. I think with her and Dina together, it works for me. I don't know why I'm dissecting this, except there's been so much. I feel like there's been criticism of Bella Ramsey.
Dude,
I feel like that's the biggest complaint of season 2.
Yeah.
It's just people really shitting on her. And I think she's doing good. And I think she makes sense. I mean, she is basically a baby Joel.
Yeah. And
Joel's a weird guy. Joel's weird. He's a man of his convictions. He's like very type focused. I think Bella Ramsey came out and said that found out she's like on the autism spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Something.
That's right.
And I was like, you know what? That totally works for Ellie, in my opinion. I can totally see that. And so when Dina is like this bubbly, natural actor who could be in like any CW show, Ellie is not motivated that way. She's not built that way. She's got a different energy. She's got different motivations. She's got a different vibe. She is there to kick ass and take names. And the social part of that isn't as interesting to her.
Yeah. Yeah. People really raked the show over the coals, and Bella specifically unfairly over the coals, for the scene where Dina tells her that she's pregnant and the whole "I'm going to be a dad" response, which people are so mad that she doesn't treat that moment as harshly as she does in the game and as single-minded as she does in the game. And I got to tell you, we've been replaying the game alongside the episodes, and I think the show did that better. I think that's one of the moments they did better. I think it shows you a more well-rounded person, and it adds stakes in a way.
Why is she angry in the game?
She's angry in the game because she views that as a hurdle in her way. Like she's going to have to take care of Dina and worry about Dina more now, which is going to stand in her way of avenging Joel, which is valid to an extent, but she can still have that moment of realization later and not process that immediately. Like people process things in stages in real life. And the idea that someone's just immediately going to fly off the handle, maybe that is how game Ellie behaves, but that's not how show Ellie behaves. Show Ellie having this moment of bonding with Dina, like I said, it adds depth to their relationship. And then it adds more stakes later when Dina is shot in the leg with an arrow. So like, I like that move. I think it works. And I think that's one of those things we've talked about before with adaptation, where it's like, you think you want to see a one-to-one adaptation of something, you don't actually want to see a one-to-one adaptation of something, because there's a reason that it wasn't in that medium in the first place. You want to see a version of that story that works in the new medium. And I believe that they found that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right move for this version of Ellie. And I think her and Dina are great. And I can't wait to see hopefully more of them next season too. That'll be awesome.
Right on.
And
Same here.
Yeah. I love it. I'm excited for season 3. I'm not playing the game. I'm going to try and be as surprised as possible. And that also keeps me open-minded to whatever changes and, whatever twist it is. I love an adaptation. It does not need to be strict to the text, I think, in either of our opinions. So yeah. I'm excited for season 3.
Same here, man. Listener, what do you think? Let us know. Send us an email, nerdy430@gmail.com. We'll read it on the show. We'll be back here again next week. We got a little special thing planned for you, so we'll play around then. Until then, stay nerdy, everybody. Bye.
Stay nerdy. Bye.